Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Tenpenny Files. I'm your host, Dr. Sherri Tenpenny. The Tenpenny Files isn't just another podcast. The Tenpenny Files offers conversations meant to inform and educate, not just entertain. I come prepared, and I let the discussion unfold naturally with people who are worth hearing on topics worth exploring. If it matters to your body, your health, your freedom, and your future, we talk about it here on this show. Each day, I sit down with authors, documentary filmmakers, and independent thinkers whose work challenges mainstream messaging. Our conversations span a wide range of topics, from government, health, politics, and history, to astronomy, pets, and travel, to food, farming, and fitness, to vaccines and health policy. Every week, we have conversations with authors who write about faith and biblical principles. The goal is simple: to introduce you to topics that you've never heard of, or to topics you've always wished you wanted to explore but didn't know where to start. Sound interesting? The Tenpenny Files is the place for you. Join me every day, weekday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday, to hear from voices that have often been ignored, silenced, or censored, but truly have something very important to say. And before we begin today's episode, I want to invite all of our members and all of our listeners to become a Tenpenny Prime member. Prime members receive an exclusive monthly white paper about your body, a recorded presentation, and access to a monthly Ask the Expert masterclass, which are always over the moon. They are so good. Visit primemembership.drtenpenny.com to learn more and hopefully to join and support our work. Now let's get started. Today's conversation is with author, pioneer of applied medical anthropology, and the founder of the Institute for the Study of Culturogenic Disease, Sidney Ross Singer, about his book, Dressed to Kill: The Link Between Breast Cancer and Bras. Sidney, thank you so much for joining me here today. It's a pleasure to have you as part of the Tenpenny Files.
Well, it's wonderful to be with you. Thank you for having me.
You know, the title of your book sets the stage for the conversation. It's such an interesting topic. Your groundbreaking research in the 1991 to 1993 U.S. breast cancer study brought international attention to the connection between bras and breast cancer. Tell the audience how you came to study this connection, because it's really a fascinating story.
Well, I have a background in medicine and in biochemistry and in anthropology. And when I was in medical school, I became very disillusioned with the approach that medicine takes towards health, and which it lacks an appreciation of lifestyles and what we do to ourselves that make us sick. So I left medicine and started integrated all of my past training to create what we call applied medical anthropology, which is where I look at the cultural causes of disease. Like, what are we doing to ourselves because of our lifestyles, because of the way we are trained to think about things and to act? All of those things are influenced by your culture, and they will affect your body and your health. And nobody really looks at them because these are things we all do. There's industries that sell products related to the things we do. So there's a lot of resistance to examining your own foibles in your life, and people have to be willing to look at themselves. But it's a very important thing to do. And um, because 90% of what we're experiencing is lifestyle related. And lifestyle is going to affect, even if it isn't lifestyle related, your lifestyle is going to exacerbate any problems you have that aren't lifestyle. Like if you have a genetic problem, you have to take certain lifestyle precautions. So it's all about what we do. And so I got into the bra and breast cancer issue when my wife discovered a lump in her breast when we were doing one of our first studies unrelated to that. We were in Fiji at the time, and my wife was pregnant, and she discovered a lump in her breast, and we got very frightened and came back to the States wondering what could have caused this. And there was an interesting connection in Fiji because a week before we discovered the lump, my wife was hanging out some bras on the line in a remote village on one of the islands where they really don't have a lot of exposure to Western fashions. And this young girl who didn't know what a bra really was, she came over and was curious and asked my wife, "What is that?" "Oh, it's a bra." "And why do you wear it?" And my wife had a pretty direct question. How many women ask themselves, why do I have to wear this thing? And my wife said, well, I guess women just do where I'm from, that women wear them. And she said, the girl took the bra and was feeling, so isn't this tight? And my wife said, well, yeah, I suppose it is, but you get used to it. And that was the end of that conversation, but it left a little seed in our minds. And when we got back to the States, flying from Fiji and panic over this discovery of a lump, um, we took a shower after this long flight. She took off her clothes. My wife had been wearing a bra all that time. And when she took her bra off, we looked around her at her breasts, naked there in the bathroom, and her breasts were suddenly a problem. I mean, they never had been before. She's a healthy woman, vegetarian, clean air, clean food, very conscious of all those things. And here she was with a lump in her breast. So we're looking for clues. And as soon as she takes her bra off, I saw these red marks that around her, where the bra is, around the chest, the back, the strap, up the sides. And yeah, I've seen that so many times, every time she took it off. But I never thought about the significance of what those meant. And now that I was looking for clues of a problem and what's the cause, because I always want to know the cause. You can't medicine loves to treat problems, detect and treat, but they don't worry about the cause. Usually the cause is something they can't control. It's nothing to do with drugs. It has to do with lifestyle. So they don't care about that. They just are going to identify the problem once it occurs, and then they'll treat you forever if they can. And if you don't get rid of the cause, you'll always need treatment because the problem won't go away. So if we want to figure out what's causing this lump in my wife's breast, we're looking and it's red marks, constriction. My wife said, well, what would that do? And I never learned about clothing and constriction being a medical problem before because medicine doesn't think of it. Even though they use ACE bandages and they treat lymphedema with bandaging, they know it affects the lymphatics, but they don't think about this. So I said, well, if you're constricting, it's going to block the lymphatic drainage out of the breasts. And she said, what would that do? I said, well, it'll cause your breasts to congest with fluid. They would get painful. They could develop cysts. And she said, could that cause cancer? And I thought, gee, I wonder if it could. Yeah, because toxins won't be able to flush out of the breast either. You basically are creating a stagnant area in your breasts by constricting the lymphatic drainage that goes from the breast mostly to the armpit. And the strap comes down and if you look at where those marks are, it's isolating your breast from your armpit. There's a line of stress, of pressure right there. And when women raise their arms, they make them much tighter. It's a very constrictive area. So we said, well, could bras be causing breast cancer? The first thing you think, wow, if this was true, then why didn't I hear about this before? Right? I mean,
The fashion industry has always been horrible for women. Corsets, underwear,
absolutely.
high heels, pointy-toed shoes, 5-inch heels making you stand on the ends of your bones of your feet.
Mhm.
Came up with the idea of bras and made them and decided to make them necessary.
They've been around for bras and breast body alteration is just this thing that humans do. I mean, it goes across cultures and across centuries. There have been bodices in different times in history, constrictive things. The Chinese bound feet for 1,000 years. They thought that was awesome. They loved the rotten when they take it was is erotic thing when the men would take the shoes off and unwrap the feet, which were often with necrotic tissue from constant constriction. And they would have these deformed feet. They needed help walking. And this was considered the best fashion. And that lasted. I mean, it's obvious what was happening. I mean, no one's going to say, gee, what's causing my feet to be all messed up? It's obvious, right? But they did it because cultures are as stupid as the people in them. It's made up of people. And when you have a fetish and we can make a fetish out of anything, earlobes, navels. I mean, everything could be a fetish if you want it to be. And if the culture focuses on it, then that's all you need. And we humans love dealing with abstractions and all these, and we could get into anything. So throughout history, people have messed up their bodies with fashion. And one of the worst things you can do is constriction. And that's what people don't understand because it's such a fashion, and even doctors do it. Nobody questions what they automatically do. We become oblivious to the obvious. And we do things that are obviously, going to cause a problem. Like when you're smoking and you feel that burning sensation in your lungs, Is it a shock to know that this causes lung disease? I mean, we know these things intuitively. We feel them. But if medicine doesn't study it, then there's no evidence. And if you believe in evidence-based medicine, which is the gold standard, that means that you can't talk about it if there's no evidence. But the only things they'll have evidence for are things that are profitable, like drugs, and then the drug companies fund the research. So by being evidence-based medicine, I mean, this is a side thing, but I have a problem with evidence-based medicine because it's really a gatekeeping thing. It means that you have to be part of the union. You have to have the union label. You have to be doing what they want and doing studies to create data, doing it the way they want it. If you don't, if you're outside of that, peer review kicks you out. They won't even look at it. Peer review doesn't mean quality. People think I know I'm going everywhere, but these are interesting snippets I wanted to share since you said your show is about new ideas. People aren't going to hear these things, all right? Peer review is really just getting the union label. Look at like a meta-analysis, which examines a whole bunch of studies related to a topic, and then they try to, understand and average out all of those results. That's what a meta-analysis does. And what's really amazing is they'll go through all of these studies and they'll discard so many of them for not having a proper control, for not doing this or that, measuring the wrong thing. There's so many bad peer-reviewed studies. And peer review is not about quality control. Peer review is about making sure you're doing it the right way, writing it the right way, using the right references, the right approach, the right theory, the right paradigm. If you step outside of that, the peer review keeps you out. And since that system is controlled by drugs, things like lifestyle and tight clothing, which obviously cause problems, and people who make clothing know that, and they trying to make better clothing, especially since Dress to Kill came out. It revolutionized the bra industry. But the medical industry is still, we don't want to look at this. Not only do they not want to look at this, saying that this makes no sense. And that's what's really annoying. That's killing women. And for 30 years, Dr. T, I've been doing this subject for 30 years because my wife was involved in this. When she got rid of her bra, when we discovered this, her cyst, it would probably a cyst, but it went away. And I've heard women who had other lumps, some said it was cancer that was identified that went away when they got rid of their bra because your bra is preventing your immune system from dealing with whatever's in your breast. The lymphatics is your immune system. Go ahead.
The American Cancer Society, talking about peer review and study design and looking at all problems, and I really appreciate what you said about peer review is nothing more than getting the union label. That's really, really good because everybody hangs, the lay people who read studies that they hang their hat on peer review, which really doesn't mean anything. The
Yeah.
American Cancer Society, however, issued statements after you put out your study of absolute condemnation of your work, saying it was devoid of scientific methodology. Where do you think this blowback came from, and what did you have to say about that?
Well, the blowback was, I mean, my publisher was threatened with a lawsuit by the lingerie industry when he first came out with Dress to Kill in 1995. And we did our own study that we then, when we saw that nobody was really looking at this, we didn't realize they did look at this in the 1930s. They knew about bras and cancer back in the 1930s. They knew if you impair the lymphatics, that can cause cancer because the lymphatics is the circulatory pathway of your immune system. It flushes your tissues of toxins and cancer cells and chemical markers of cancer cells that then have to go to the lymph nodes to mount an immune response. And if you interfere with this information highway of fluid and chemicals to let your lymph nodes know what's going on in your breast, you interfere with that with tight clothing, you're backing it all up, you're not allowing that communication, and your cells are sitting in waste and so forth. So it's just a model that medicine just doesn't want to deal with. So we did this study and we found that it was a big deal. We interviewed women and we about their past bra wearing habits. Half of them had had breast cancer in 5 major US cities. And this was the 1991 to 93 bra and breast cancer study. And my wife and I did that together with some volunteers. And discovered, we asked them how long they wear bras, how tight the bra is, and relevant questions to bra usage. And what was amazing is that the tighter and longer you wear a bra, the higher your risk of breast cancer. And put really simply, Bra-free women have about the same risk as men. There are men who gets breast cancer, about 100th the rate. In other words, 1% of the female rate is the male rate. But bra-free women are the same because as soon as you put that constrictive garment on, you're increasing every damage you do to your breast, whether it's from radiation from mammograms, whether it's from injuries sustained to the breast. You have to be able to heal, and the lymphatics are part of that. And if you impair the lymphatics, your healing won't happen very effectively. And you also consistently toxify the breast with all of the pollution in our world that we take into our bodies from the polluted water, polluted air, polluted food, medications. When you consume these, they get absorbed and distributed throughout your whole body by your heart and pumping through blood through your vascular system. But when it gets to the tissue spaces, the capillaries allow these toxins to come in under pressure from the heart. They get into your tissue spaces and then they have to passively drain by the lymphatics. Like 80% of this fluid, a huge amount, has to drain via the lymphatics, not back into the bloodstream. If you're impairing your lymphatics, you're just stopping this entire flow. And I mean, not just, complete stoppage, and you're going to know it real quick. But what happens with the bra is it's chronic, constant, daily, long-term constriction, mild constriction, which leads to a long-term process. Medicine never studies long-term processes. It's very hard for them to treat those or anything. So we're dealing with a chronic process.
Well, why did the American Cancer Society say that your study was devoid of scientific methodology?
Because they don't want to deal with the results. This is outside their paradigm. And I'm a medical anthropologist. I'm not an epidemiologist. We interviewed people. We didn't just get data. We discussed things with them. And we knew that we weren't going to be, the results were to point in a direction for further research. They weren't meant to be definitive. And we knew if this was significant, we'd see some big results. And we did. So we called for further research. But the American Cancer Society, knee-jerk reaction, actually, not just them, everybody. Women's groups, the National Organization of Women, and breast cancer groups, nobody wanted to touch the issue of a bra. It's a cultural issue. And they don't want to be the ones telling women not to wear bras. And I know why. Because when you do, first of all, you get attacked by the lingerie industry. As I said, they threatened my publisher with a lawsuit. They never sued, but they threatened. They lied that I didn't go to Duke, I didn't go to medical school, and he checked on it, and it's like, whoa. And then the medical industry is even worse than lingerie because how are they going to admit after 30 years of forceful denial? They're not saying, maybe let's look into it. They're saying this is nonsense. This is pseudoscience. This has no evidence. It shouldn't even be looked at. It makes no sense. Only an idiot would think this is true. We're not even going to look at it. And it is wrong. Bras do not. So they don't have evidence. It's a complete denial because imagine we're talking about lung cancer and smoking. At one time, doctors were promoting cigarettes. The whole culture was into smoking. It was thought good for you. But when they found that that was being linked to cancer, it was resisted for 30 years. It took over 7,000 studies showing the link before the Surgeon General would acknowledge it because there was a huge tobacco industry. And the first guys coming out and saying, oh, it causes cancer, gets sued by the tobacco lobby. So then they fund research to prove that their tobacco is safe. And you could fund research to get anything you want because, you know, money talks and it says what you want the results to be. And if it's not those results, they don't get published. So it becomes a selected thing to prove a point. So much research is to prove a point. It's not good science, it's advocacy. Um,
You, your study, though, even with all of the blowback from the healthcare industry, the lingerie industry, Cancer Society, you inspired more than a dozen global studies that ended up supporting what you had to say, transforming lingerie industry towards safer, looser bras with no underwires and reducing exposure. But it's still thought of as fringe. Why is that?
well, I think you'd know as well as anybody why that would be. Obviously, it's a threat to medicine. They've ignored the most obvious variable in breast health, whether you're constricting your breasts with bras. All of their research on breast cancer is now flawed. It's ignored a huge variable. If you didn't ask family history, they would beat you up for that in a study. Oh my God, you ignored family history. That's such, well, this is bigger than family history. And, but not every country is like this. Like you said, other countries have picked up on it. This culture is very controlled, much differently than these other cultures
Well, the
in medicine.
blowback that you get, and I know we've talked about it because you were on my previous show, and I've followed your work for since the first book came out. One of the largest blowbacks that we get are from large-breasted women who say that it's so uncomfortable if I don't wear a bra because I'm large-breasted, and I need the support of the bra to hold up my breasts. What sort of things do you say to them about support for their comfort when they're a large-breasted woman?
Right. Well, it's interesting. The women saying that are lifetime bra users. And the reason they're so uncomfortable is because their suspensory ligaments in their breasts have become weakened from wearing an external support. And that's why bras actually cause breasts to droop more than they would naturally. Because inside your breast, there are Cooper's ligaments that provide structure from within the tissue. That's how our bodies work. We don't have external, when you provide external support, you're compressing the body from the outside, which our bodies weren't designed to do, and the skin suffers from that. So that impairs circulation, and it causes the inside structures to weaken. It's like putting your arm in a sling. Your shoulder will get so weak. So we have weak women with weak breasts, basically, that the tissue is just weak, and it's congested with fluid because of the backed up lymph. So they're heavy, and these women who, when they get rid of their bras, and we're doing an ongoing international bra-free study, and we have women around the world involved in this study, and they take off their bras, stop wearing them, and tell us what their experience is. And I've written up about this in my Substack, The Culture Doctor. I've written articles about what these women have experienced. It's absolutely amazing. The bra is causing so many problems, not just to the breast, but the whole body. Like women can't breathe fully when they have a band. And if you get rid of the bra, every woman in the study says, I breathe easier. If they had breast pain, it went away. The cysts, which are filled with the fluid that collects into certain tissue spaces and becomes a cyst over time and becomes fibrocystic breast disease. It's type bra syndrome. When they get rid of the bra, all of these things dramatically improve pretty quickly. So what's kept this issue alive is that women can try it for themselves. It's not taking a drug. You don't need to do it's just on your own body. And we do what's called self-studies. We try it yourself. It's on your body, it's your lifestyle, you know how you feel. It doesn't matter if I do it to 10 other people, that doesn't necessarily apply to you. And if your bra is harming you, then you'll know it when you stop wearing it and you'll feel better. And that's what happens. It's absolutely transformative. But this is such a threat to the medical industry that makes billions on the breast every year on breast cancer detection, treatment, implants, the whole 10 yards of breast disease management. And then the lingerie industry is making money on bras. So the lingerie industry now funds breast cancer research to make sure that nobody looks at this. And when the American Cancer Society says there is no link, they're not even saying maybe there is, because there's actually more than 12. There's over 24 studies, because there was even a meta-analysis done of many studies that showed for sure sleeping in a bra increases cancer risk. That's like even a study yeah, that is like no question about the sleeping by that meta-analysis. But they included a study that, this was an interesting side thing. 20 years after the book came out, I mean, we've been growing the issue has been growing in popularity. It's around the world. The book is in several languages. So many women have been helped by this over the years. I've done many, many radio and TV interviews and so forth, because when they take their bras off, they feel so much better. Even their self-esteem improves because they don't feel that they have to hide themselves in public, or there's something wrong with their bodies that they need 20th century lingerie on them to be acceptable, and their breasts have to be a little higher. I mean, it's absurd what we do to women, and they're realizing that these days, which is really nice. But I forgot the direction I was going. I'm going off on so many tangents with you that um, was there a specific, well, let me focus on the question you asked.
You answered it really well about, the congestion that happens in large breast women and their ligaments get weaker and having.
Right.
So you're going to hold that thought there because we're going to coming up on a hard break, and then we're going to talk about what does wearing a bra 24/7 do, and what about the connection between bras and fibrocystic disease, which is just pervasive in our society today. So this is a good place for us to take a short break to hear from our sponsors for AmericaOutloud.news. America Out Loud Radio plays the 10 Penny Files on the iHeartRadio network every day, Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern. You can listen anywhere in the world from AmericaOutloud.news, their media player. And if you've missed any of these great conversations we've had about really interesting topics, you can find the 10 Penny Files on Spotify, Pandora, Apple, TuneIn, iHeart Virtual Studios, and on my platforms, dr10penny.com, dr10penny.substack.com. Also, we post them on X and on Rumble and on Instagram at BusyDrT. Because there's so many great books and documentaries and so little time to read and watch. This show is meant to maximize your time and jumpstart your interest. We're going to hear a message from our sponsors. Please listen carefully, support them because they support the work that we do and they support America Out Loud. We're going to take a quick break. We will be right back with more from Sidney Ross Singer and his book, Dress to Kill: The Link Between Breast Cancer and Bras. We'll be right back. Zeolite is a detox spray. We work specifically with a company called Touchstone Essentials. They are an incredible company. We've been working with them now for several years. And zeolite is a mineral that goes through your body like a one-way basket. It will clean out heavy metals such as arsenic and mercury, aluminum, cadmium, and it hooks onto those metals from a one-way perspective. So once it's bound, it goes out through your urine or your stools and doesn't get redeposited in other places. Everybody needs to have a detox product in their life, and this one is so easy to use and it's so safe. You can take it when you're pregnant, you can take it when you're nursing, you can give it to little children, you can even give it to infants, and quite frankly, I give it to my dog. I actually put a little bit of the zeolite in his water because until we all stop living in a toxic world, we all need to get some of those extra toxicities out, the heavy metals, the persistent organic pollutants, the things that are floating through the air, the different things that we come in touch with in our environment. And we are a big fan of zeolite from Touchstone Essentials. We've been a big fan of their products for several years. Go to dr10penny.com/detox to get your first bottle of zeolite spray for $50 off.
Well, only when the government bows to the people will America become great again. This is Malcolm Out Loud here. Join me in pushing back against censorship, my fellow Americans. Right at the top of AmericaOutloud.news are the words: many voices, one freedom, united in the First Amendment. Now is our time, my fellow Americans. AmericaOutloud.news, liberty and justice for all.
Well, welcome back, everyone. Today we're talking with Sidney Ross Singer about the second version of his book, Dress to Kill: The Link Between Breast Cancer and Bras. Let me tell you a little bit more about today's guest, Sidney Ross Singer. Sidney is a pioneer of applied medical anthropology and the founder of the Institute for the Study of Culturogenic Disease. Using his expertise in medicine, anthropology, biochemistry, and medical humanities, Sidney has made numerous discoveries about how to make ourselves sick through our lifestyles. He has focused on health impacts of tight clothing and harmful sleep positions. He is internationally recognized for doing the world's first study directly examining breast cancer link, which has transformed the bra industry and shocked the defensive cancer industry. Sidney, welcome so much back to the show.
Thank you.
For the audience, tell them what a medical anthropologist is.
Well, I look at how the culture makes us sick. I use anthropology to understand lifestyles and culture, and I use medicine to see how those affect our physiology. Um, and most medical anthropologists actually go to cultures non-Western cultures and try to discover ways of integrating Western medicine in them, like what the World Health Organization might do. But I've pioneered a new approach where I actually try to figure out the cause of disease through. So it starts with I'm not just trying to spread Western medicine. I'm trying to understand our own culture, which causes resistance because the culture has investment in, like, it's like trying to tell anybody that you're doing the wrong thing. Their usual response is not happy, and that's why most people don't do what I do. And it takes somebody who's independent like I am to come out and be able to say these things and not worry about having to have a sponsor for it, except for a person like you who's open-minded and cares about this type of information. So yeah, that's what I do.
So before the break, we were talking about some of the different causes and problems with the tight fitting bras. Uh, let's talk a little bit about bras and fibrocystic disease, and then I want to ask you about the difference between tight fitting bras and loose fitting bras, and do they cause the same problems? But let's start with fibrocystic disease because that is a massive problem amongst women in America and probably in Europe too. So talk about that link with bras.
Well, it's a function of constriction again, and like you say, most women do suffer from that. Most bra wearers have that problem, and I mean over 50%. And when you look at statistics from the bra industry, even over 80% of women are wearing the wrong size. It's just too tight. And that's, you can't blame women because the bra by its design is sort of meant to be tight. Its purpose is support, which means lifting them up higher on your chest. You can't do that unless it's snug. So the snugness of a bra, when does snug become tight? I mean, we're talking semantics here, but if you have anything reshaping your breast, it has to do that with pressure. And it's reshaping it, of course, only while you're wearing it. And then, but to do that, it's pushing it. That pressure cuts down on very delicate lymphatic vessels, which are microscopic. They have no internal pressure, unlike capillaries that have pressure, and they're very easily compressed. So, if you squeeze your wrist with a rubber band, you'll let blood will go through, but eventually your hand will swell because your lymphatics will be blocked. The lymphatics are blocked sooner than your bloodstream because the bloodstream has pressure in it, and the lymphatics don't. They move by movement. They flood. They have one-way valves. So as your body squishes these little vessels, it propels the lymph to the next segment of the lymphatics, and it can't go backwards because of these valves. And so it keeps on propelling towards your lymph nodes, which are in various creases of your body as it happens. So um, so fibrocystic breast disease it happens when this impairment of lymphatic drainage causes the fluid to back up in the breasts, and fluid will then collect in tissues. It gets painful when you have pressure buildup from a lack of lymphatic drainage. And then that'll collect into cystic areas, and women will get those withdrawn by needle aspiration regularly, like every 6 months. They'll go to, once they stop wearing the bra, that goes away. It's like incredible. So if you're wearing too tight a bra, or even now, what is not too tight a bra? If you take it off and there's no marks on your skin, it's not too tight. If there's marks in your skin, it's too tight. And we haven't talked about another aspect of bras, which is what they're made of, because it's not just the mechanical issue of a tight garment, but because these are so intimately associated with your breast tissue, what are they made of? You sweat in these things. You're going to soak in whatever toxins are in the garment itself. And most of these are made out of plastic. They're polyester. That's plastic. And they leach chemicals out of these plastics, especially under heat and UV. And every time you wash the bra, it's going to break down a little bit more. These polymers that make up plastic are made up of, a polymer is like a chain of pearls, and each pearl is a monomer, and you link them together. But once you link them together, when it comes to plastics, those monomer pearls, each one is toxic. When you put them all together, they're not toxic as much, but they break down into the little pearls. They come off all the time. Plus, when they make plastic, there are many steps in making plastic, including polyester. And in each of those steps, there's a lot of toxins that accumulate that are required, toxic chemicals for that process, and the many stages. For that stage, they need these really intense toxins. Well, those stay in the product when you deal with plastic. You don't wash them out. So your final product has a lot of toxic stuff in it. And that leaches out of the clothing onto your skin, including dyes. I mean, when you ever wash a red garment and you see all your other garments are a little red, well, when you're soaking in your sweat in that garment, you're absorbing all that. So the bra is not only preventing your breasts from your lymphatics from effectively flushing these toxins out of your body that get delivered by our bloodstream, but it's also delivering toxins from the outside right into it. So
I There's a lot your work has really caught on in subtle ways because I think that, there's now the sports bras that kind of lay across your upper abdomen as opposed to constricting around the lower part of your breast. Many are now 100% cotton. I think the whole idea of not wearing an underwire, most
mhm.
people are going away from the underwire. So if by doing like having better fabric, like you talked about the polyester and going to 100% cotton, which is going to be more absorbable and more breathable, and to have the ones that have a band around the bottom as opposed to a constrictive hook in the back. And do you think that those are less bad, for lack of a better word?
No, no, they're not, because they're very tight. They're known to be tight. There are different types of sports bras. There's encapsulating ones that but they're designed to immobilize your breast. To do that, they got to be tight. And your breasts, when they move naturally, they are pumping the lymphatics. Like I said, there's one-way valves, and movement pushes things through these lymphatics. So when you immobilize your breast, especially when you're exercising, it's not benefiting from exercise. One of the biggest benefits of exercise is improved circulation, including lymphatics. So you're isolating your breasts from your that improved circulation, so they don't get it as well. And the so if sports bras also they can heat the breasts, and there was a study done in England where they had young athletes, women, not wear a bra, and they got used to it and preferred it to bras. They actually were able to perform better without a bra. You know, it's not, our bodies really know how to operate without the need for clothing. They sold corsets that you needed a corset. They sold girdles that, oh, your body is flawed without support from a girdle. And then what happened was it constricted women terribly, and then you got dependent on it. So you couldn't, without the girdle, your abdomen was so weak. So women become reliant on these. We all become reliant on these garments. And it's not just bras. But to finish the idea of what's a safer thing to wear, first of all, when you're working out, you should do workout in a body, doing exercises that are good for your body. Because if you are a large-breasted woman, you don't want to do a lot of bouncing exercises. It's going to strain your breasts, and it's going to definitely be, although once you get used to bra free, you could be on a trampoline. And women, oh yeah, my wife, it was like that. I saw and we've done this study, and I've seen so many women telling me what happens to them. Their breasts learn to enjoy the movement that the nature made them for. And they no longer feel like they have. There was a study done based on my book. I was in this. It was a documentary in the UK in the year 2000 called Bras, the Bare Facts. They had 100 women, all with fibrocystic breast disease. And they had two doctors. These were standard surgeons. And they did ultrasounds on them, and they documented what happens when they stop wearing bras. And this was documented for TV, and it was amazing. The results were so astounding that they had to backtrack for the media because when they announced the results of this, it changed women's lives. They were saying I had so much breast pain before that 1 week out of every month I couldn't even lift my child or whatever. I got rid of the bra, and my life has changed. I don't even know when my period's coming because my breasts aren't sore anymore. Because when your period comes, your breasts swell from hormones just before your period. The estrogen peaks, your breasts actually get more fluid. Estrogen makes your whole body retain fluid. And your bra is tighter because you're wearing the same size. So if you wear two, at least if you're gonna wear bras, okay, let me cut to the chase for women who want to. I suggest that every woman at least try 1 month bra free. Give yourself a menstrual cycle and see how it feels because it will transform your life. Ultimately, if you still want to wear something for modesty or whatever, camisoles are great, bralettes are great, Try making a cotton, hemp, silk, or one of those linen, something that is natural fibers. Be aware of what chemicals you wash it in, because those will, the fabric and detergents, fabric softeners, they're terrible, and they stay in the clothes. That's why you smell them, and it's you're marinating your breasts in that. So be aware. It's such intimate thing to your intimate garment to your skin, that anything in that garment, chemical wise, is going to be exposing your skin to it, and you're going to absorb it, and that could cause rashes at least, and it can cause worse toxic stuff. So
The idea of a camisole is a great suggestion because I think a lot of women wear a bra because of their nipple size. And some women have very large nipples, and that, is kind of protruding or at least obvious through the clothing that you wear. Even if the clothing that you have on is a sweater or a sweatshirt that isn't particularly clingy, sometimes that can be, it's a cultural thing.
it's a cultural thing.
They don't want men staring at their chest and looking at their nipples, and so I think the idea of a camisole is a great suggestion. Do you have other suggestions along that line?
Well, you want to be aware that you don't want to compress your nipple, especially if you have a long nipple. When you wear a bra, they don't have nipple receptacles that you could, that don't make your nipples smashed. So, I mean, that's not good for nipples. And you could try. Some women say pasties are good. I don't know if it's a silicone pasty, um, uh, silicone. Then it won't be toxic. But you don't want to compress your nipples. You can wear vests to de-accentuate your breasts, put things. But it's interesting talking about breast sagging, which I think is one of the biggest things that women are worried about. Their nipples and sag. That's like, cancer is third, fourth, fifth. And the thing is, if you're wearing heavy clothes, your breasts come out and down a little bit because of gravity. If you're wearing a whole bunch of heavy stuff on top of yourself, your base, which pushes in, right? You're wearing a heavy coat. That's pushing in on your body. It's draping on you. You're holding up the coat. Where are your breasts going? They're going down. So the weight of our clothing is making them go. You say gravity. If everyone was naked, we probably wouldn't be having as droopy breasts in women, because they're getting droopy for the clothing is causing a lot of the droop. Yeah, connective tissue with time, I get that. But when you put constant layers of weight on your chest where you have protrusions coming out, the physics is pretty simple.
That's really interesting. Well, let's talk a little bit about mammograms
Oh
because
boy.
breasts and breast pathology and breast pathology relationship to bras, then I'm sure that mammograms have been in your circle too. And, the whole difference of screening between 40 and 50 and how that's bounced back and forth for lots of years. Now we're back to 40 again when I thought that we had abandoned that. What is your take about mammograms and screening?
Well, this goes back to the other question. Why is medicine resisting this? When I was in medical school back in the late 80s, they were just starting the experiment on mammograms. They said, and I saw it in medical journals, and I was seeing, this was an experiment. They didn't know what's causing it or how to prevent it. So they're not thinking, because they're ignoring the bra, and that's the biggest cause. But they have other causes, of course, not just the bra, but the bra makes the breast weaker no matter what. But the experiment of early detection to try to reduce incidence and make it, better. If we don't know what's causing it, we just want to find it as soon as possible. That's what mammograms are all about. And the bra connection undermines their sales pitch for mammograms, because they have to sell mammograms with fear. And if you think your breasts are not hurting anymore, you got rid of the bra, your breasts are feeling good, they perked up, no more cysts, you're like, I could breathe. You're not going to go to have them squish your breasts between plates and x-ray them, okay? It ruins your motive if you feel good. So medicine, when they push these big programs, they're these awareness campaigns, that's the sales pitch. You always are promoting something with these awareness campaigns, and they're trying to promote mammograms, which bring you into the fold of medical treatment for breasts. And so that's one of the reasons they are really opposing the bra and breast cancer issue, because they know, they don't want women to feel like, I can just get rid of my bra and I don't need to get a mammogram. Now, I think mammograms are problematic. You're shooting your breasts full of x-rays, you're smashing them. between plates to do this, and they're not as sensitive to these types of tumors. You could do ultrasound, is a lot safer. Some people go for thermograms, although I think that has advantages, but it could be overutilized, and sometimes that's even misused. I think the most important thing for a woman to do is trust in her own body and do her own breast exam, know what your breast should feel like. They should have no tenderness. They shouldn't be tender in any spot. If they are, there's something is causing that. It's not natural. Fibrocystic breast disease is not natural. That is a cultural disease. That's what culturogenic disease. You said I'm the Institute for Study of Culturogenic Disease. Culturogenic is culture caused, and that term it's a new term for medicine because they don't want to think that high a level of, there's no drug for that. The medicine is really a specialty field like chiropractic. If you have a spinal problem and neck ache, a backache, chiropractors can do great work on that. You wouldn't, you go to a medical doctor, they don't even touch you. They don't even touch you with a stethoscope anymore. So, if you want a spinal thing, you don't go to a doctor, you go to a chiropractor. If you want a drug, you don't go to the chiropractor, you go to a doctor. If you want nutritional advice, you don't go to a doctor, or maybe a chiropractor would know that, but a nutritionist would know that. And in other words, these are all specialists. And in our world of specialty, even within medicine, they don't talk to each other. But our culture has given medicine too much power, and anything that isn't drugs is ignored. And these lifestyle obvious things, and everything has become medicalized. I mean, here's a good question. I met a friend the other day from my childhood, went to high school, and he's a very successful guy now. And he was telling me about, how are you doing? How's your health? And all of his answers are in numbers. Oh, my cholesterol is this, my this is that, all the numbers. And it became an interesting issue. I wrote about this in my Substack. Can we know that we're healthy without a medical test? Do we need medicine to tell us everything? Can I say I feel great. I have good energy. I have no aches and pains. If you went to medicine would say, the problem is you don't know if you're really healthy. We got to do some genetic screening now. You might be early stage of something. Now they have like pre-diabetes and pre-diabetes, and we're going to get you in the womb, and they will. They're doing that. There's going to be designer babies that will be screened for genetic diseases. And all of these are, genetic determinism. This is medical determinism. It sucks you into the medical system. It defines everything in biochemistry terms. But we live in a physical world with lifestyles and cultures and people, and not just this mechanistic, reductionistic medical world where everything is reduced to chemicals and enzymes, and hormones and genes, and we want to interfere with it with a chemical and see what happens. And then you say you've done experiments on the breast in rodents that, I mean, they're not, that's why they don't see this. How can you do animal studies when you're looking at humans that have lifestyles that alter their bodies and physiology, and animals don't have that? And they're not putting rats into bras. They're not going to think about that. To medicine, a breast cell in tissue culture, in a flask floating in liquid, is just as valid to study for breast cancer as studying it in a rodent or in a woman. And they don't think about, they think every breast is a breast. I mean, you look at, this is interesting too. You look at an anatomy chart. Google an anatomy chart. It'll show you a naked body. But nobody's like that. In real cultures, they have a tight this, a tight that. We could change the shape of our skull by the way we sleep. That's a fact. We alter the way our bodies are by pressure and physical forces. Clothing is one of them. Sleep position, I'm not going to talk about it this time, but that's a very important thing that has to deal with gravity and the effect that gravity has on circulation in your brain, which is different when you're standing and lying down. And I've written about that. I have a book about that. Go to my Substack on that. That's a physical thing. When do you ever hear gravity being an issue in medicine when they talk? Well, what's their sleep position in these sleep studies? They don't even think about sleep position, yet that's so important. So medicine is naive.
Sydney, I know you're just a plethora of information. You want to take the entire bucket and dump it out in one.
I know it's
So we are coming to the end of our time here together today, and this has just been very enlightening. I just want to make one comment, taking a step back about what you said about self breast exams, because you're absolutely right. And I want to encourage the women who are watching this show that you should take a 30-day period of time, and every day when you get up, whether if you get particularly if you get in the shower every day, but even if you don't, you should examine the same time of day for 30 days. Do a thorough self breast exam so you get a feel for what your breasts feel like at various stages of your menstrual cycle, so that you'll know that they're usually larger, a little bit firmer around the mid cycle of your period, and that's not abnormal. That's the way it's supposed to be. And if you're doing that every single day, so you can get a feel for that, it will really give you a much greater appreciation for your body. And that's one of the things that our Prime membership is all about, is teaching people about their body. And so that's a really good one. We've
Let me,
got 1 minute and a half left.
all right, I want to just say to what you just said about it shouldn't be a breast exam. I think if women thought of it as a breast massage, it would be more positive. Because when they're thinking I'm looking for a tumor, it's scary and they don't want to do it. But when they're realizing I'm flushing out my breasts, I'm making sure they get good circulation, especially if I'm wearing a bra, you're going to need to do that to help it flush. You don't need to, but it'll assist it. And so I think of it as a massage, not exam. That's more medical again.
Got 30 seconds left. So your take home message is, and tell us where they can best get the book and your Substack.
You can get the book at all the big guys, or my Substack is theculturedoctor.substack.com. And I have so many articles about all of these things and more because I examine the culture in ways that everyone takes for granted. And once you start looking at the assumptions that are out there, and especially in medicine, there's so many holes in that, and there's so many things that are obvious once you open your mind and stop believing everything that medicine tells you.
We're going to have to run, Sydney, because we got a hard break here. But I want to tell everybody, and this is the cover of the book. It's really for those that are watching this, you can really see it. It's called Dress to Kill: The Link Between Breast Cancer and Bras. So I want to thank Sydney for being here with us today. The all this research and everything that you've done has just been absolutely amazing. So I want to tell everybody, thanks so much for joining us here today. You can follow up on any of your favorite podcast stations. You can find us on drtenpenny.com. So I want to thank everybody for being here. Have the great rest of your day. We will see you tomorrow or the next time right here on the Tenpenny Files. Have a great day, everybody. Goodbye and God bless.